I'm here to give you 10 tips to become better at Fire Emblem so then you can get through maps so much easier than you did before. So the first thing you need to do to get better at Fire Emblem is unfortunately read. And this is because in Fire Emblem, if you read, it'll actually tell you what's going to happen on each map. There's very rare times when they're not going to foreshadow either ambush spawns, something coming in, or just a different objective you might have to complete. If you're paying attention to what they're saying with reading, you'll get a good grasp on what to expect coming into the map. Next, items are meant to be used. And you know when I'm saying this, you mean all of your convoy that you usually have at the end of the game that's just full of items, full of killing edges, and it's completely full, sometimes to the point where you can't actually outfit all of your units because you just have that much stuff. Items are meant to be used. That warp staff, that rescue staff, you need to be able to actually use your items if you want them to be of use to you. This means using a Draco shield. And you might just be like, oh, I'm just gonna save it for someone that like might need it later, when in all reality, you have like Est over here who can't live a single round of combat because she doesn't have the levels to get there yet. Whereas if you just throw that on her, you have a much more versatile unit and you can actually, you know, go through the game. This also means those vulneraries that everyone has, making sure that you use them when you have them, because sometimes your healer may not be able to heal all of the people you need to each turn. But with that, let's move on to the next topic, and that's do your battle prep. So battle prep is, you know, that screen right before you start where you actually get to outfit your units with items. Well, do that. And I don't mean just like make sure everyone has an item, I mean make sure people have functional items. This means you don't end up with a frame with only one usable javelin and like 3 iron lances. Making sure that your units actually have things to use, making sure they have vulneraries if you have them in the back, because you want to make sure you can operate at your full potential so you hopefully don't lose someone you're not trying to. You know that extra hand axe you have in the back? Why not give that to Dorcas? He currently doesn't have something. Making sure you have all of your units actually outfitted is just going to make you that much more effective, and it's that much easier to complete maps. Because you might say, oh, I don't want to use those, but in all actuality, what if you get in a tough spot where that 2 range would have helped? Make sure to actually outfit your people. Plan! Don't just throw out your Lord in the middle of nowhere being like, ah, they're the Lord, they'll live, they're Dimitri. No, actually look at them. And I don't just mean look at your person and be like, yeah, he has enough defense. I mean, look at who they would be fighting. If you're planning on doing a strategy where you throw out someone into a whole bunch of units, I'm not saying you have to check every person's attack and defense, you should, but make sure there's no, I don't know, killing edges, armor slayers, worm slayers, depending on the game. Make sure you know what you're actually going up against so you can make an effective plan and not accidentally move your healer 3 steps to the left when if they were to the right, they would actually be able to heal your Lord that's suddenly at like 4 HP because they got hit with a killing edge. Being able to actually effectively plan a strategy, even just turn by turn, will go wonders, and it's all about actually taking that extra 5 seconds to look at your people. Check enemy ranges. In most Fire Emblem games, you can just check enemy range. And this means in older ones, you actually have to look at it and calculate it yourself, but actually checking that range can prevent something from happening because, oh no, I'm suddenly in range of this dragon. Know what you're getting yourself into, because if you put someone out and you don't calculate the enemy range properly, you could be in for a world of hurt. Or if you just looked, it would have turned out a lot better. Make use of game-specific mechanics. And this means in GBA, do the rescues. Rescue, plop down, be able to use that effectively. In Tellius, make use of shove, because believe it or not, this mechanic that almost everyone has means it's meant to be used. So make sure you know how to use it and use it effectively. In the 3DS game, being able to pair up effectively, because each game to pair up is a little different with how it works. Making sure you effectively use things correctly as they're intended to, and not intended to, if you know what I mean. It helps so much. It just helps so much. Speaking of knowing the mechanics of the game, also know what kind of phase it's supposed to be. And what I mean by this is which phase are you supposed to actually do things. So if you take the GBA games or even like Awakening, a lot of it is you throwing someone out and then the enemy attacking you so then you can push forward. Whereas if there's a game like Engage, that's more of a player phase game. And this is because of the break system. The break system means, hey, I have a lance. If I hit you with a sword, you can't act. And then you won't be able to retaliate. That makes you have to do so much more on player phase than you do in, let's say, 3 Houses when you just put Dimitri or Edelgard or Claude in just a bush and you just walk away. and then after the turn, you're like, oh, they're all dead. Being able to effectively use that to your advantage can make a world of difference. And then one thing about putting people in enemy range, make sure you're using that effectively. I don't even mean in just like an enemy phase game. I mean being able to correctly bait people. So generally when you're fighting a boss, there's one of two things that can happen. Number one, all of the units will charge around the boss as well, or sometimes it's just the units around the boss that charge if you enter one of their ranges. So being able to just bait different people that aren't the boss, so then you can effectively attack them and then go on to the boss, and separating it into two phases rather than one can save you a lot of hurt and a lot of mental energy, when in all actuality it wasn't that hard. Knowing your lose condition. All right, I want you to cat bin. Bye. What was I talking about? Know your lose condition. This means you know your lord's gonna die, the game's over. And I don't even mean in just an Iron Man sense. I mean in you having to restart the map, and if that's gonna cause you some pain. Because there's also other lose conditions. There's green units dying. There's escaping a map. There's making sure you have a turn limit done. Knowing what your lose condition is allows you to play more effectively because you know what can't happen. On a map where you have 15 turns, you know where you need to be around that 10 turn mark, right? Being able to effectively know where you're supposed to be can make a big difference with how you play. And it's a good thing to be able to do that effectively. The last thing you need to know to be better at Fire Emblem is that promoting early is okay. So it's different for every game because there's internal levels in later games, but in general, right? Know that it's okay to promote to get someone to actually be usable. You get a new unit and they're suddenly, they're not holding up and they can attack people and still get stuff done. You don't need to promote them, but someone that's falling behind really hard and is kind of a vital unit for you, whether it be an armor knight and he doesn't have defense, but he doesn't have movement, and you can just promote him to great knight and suddenly he has 3 extra move. Even if he's not going to get all those other 10 levels later, those 3 move can help you so much more now, especially if there's a filler unit later that you can just kind of take over the role. One thing to keep in mind about that though is there are certain games where you gain skills at certain levels. So instead of at level 10 promoting, if you know you're going to get a good skill at 15, regardless, you're probably going to want to wait. But if a unit really needs it and they're doing nothing but holding you back, you might want to consider it. Make sure you're making the decision based off what you need as a player, especially if you've lost some units and you need someone to step up. It's a really, really good way to take that. So that's how you get better at Fire Emblem. Sure, there are plenty other ways, but those are the 10 most effective ones that I could think of, being a Fire Emblem expert here.